Hi, I'm Dr. Mike, host of the iTunes podcast, Psychiatric Secrets Revealed with Dr. Mike, but today I'm talking about saving money. And today we're actually going to talk about netbooks, and in particular, the HP Mini. The reason I thought this would be interesting to talk about is because these are very low-cost, very convenient laptop-like devices. But the thing to remember about them is they're not laptops. They don't have the power or the capacity of a laptop, but they may be just what you need for checking email, for checking stuff on the web, maybe for simple office documents, that sort of thing. But what about this device? Is this device the one that you should get? This is the HP Mini 1000. Picked it up at Staples, I think on a super special manager's deal for about $250, so it's a really good deal. What do I like about it? What don't I like about it? Well, let me tell you. What I like about it is the form factor. You can see it's very thin. It's not very big, and I can tell you, although you can't see it here, that it's very lightweight. When you open it up, it has a very adequate screen, about 9 inches or so. So there's my fingerprints on there. And it also has a very large keyboard. Now, a lot of people have complained about this unusual mouse pad. You see the buttons are on the side as opposed to on the bottom. That doesn't bother me at all. That seems to work pretty well. The keyboard is a nice big size. However, what I have found about it is that the keys are very close together and they're very smooth. They don't have little divots in them that are pretty obvious. So the problem with that is that it's sometimes hard for me to find my spot on these keys when I'm touch typing. I'm a pretty fast touch typist, so that's a little awkward, but certainly a good effort towards getting a more normal size keyboard. If you look at it around, you have just one audio port. That's for both the headphones and for the microphone. You'll think there's probably not much of a problem, but it is a problem if you're trying to use a headset with this thing. It also has a proprietary video port. You have to plug in a little dongle here to actually use a CRT with this. Problem with that is it's one more thing to carry, and a bigger problem as far as the last time I looked, HP wasn't selling that. So if you wanted to use this to do presentations, for instance, you'd either have to use a USB option or you'd have to forego doing that. Here's a little Ethernet port here, USB port there, power port there. This side here has another USB port, and this thing back here is a recessed USB port that uses either very tiny little USB flash drives, and they want you to use their proprietary drive, which mounts flush. Here again, the highest capacity I think that those drives come in are 8 megabytes, or 8 gigabytes. So they're not very big, and they're hard to come by too. And you also have a little memory port there too. So when you open it up, let's take a look at what it's going to be like when it's up and powered on. Here we are on Yahoo, just a typical web page. I'm going to go up and switch to a different web page to show you how fast it loads web pages. If I can get my fingers to work right. Pretty fast, as you can see. That's the Badger and Blade, a wet shaving site that I like to go to. But it's you can see it loaded pretty quickly, and there's a lot of text and things on this page, and so it did it very well. So I think the screen is very nice, perfectly adequate. You can see the entire web page at once. The speed of the screen and all that was very good too. You also have some speakers that are located right up here in this top bar. I think they're made by Eltec Lansing, which is a good speaker brand. Naturally, these don't sound like some super high fidelity kind of sound system, but I would definitely say that this particular netbook, the sound is louder and a bit clearer than your typical netbook. And certainly adequate for things like Skype or even listening to a little bit of music. Naturally, if you're going to want to listen to something more seriously, you're going to want to use a set of headsets or perhaps some external speakers. But I think they did a nice job there too. So on a lot of fronts, this is a very nice netbook. What are the disadvantages of this netbook? One thing, this came with an 8 gigabyte hard drive. The hard drive was not particularly fast. You really can't change it out very easily, and that's too small of a size for a hard drive for a netbook that's running XP. So if you're looking for a netbook, definitely you want at least a 16 gigabyte hard drive, and I would say get something bigger than that if you could. I had to really take stuff out and be very careful with this one. All I really have on this right now is a few office documents, Skype, and iTunes. Not so much to store music, but just to listen to radio stations and things. So it's very, very stripped down. and yet I'm really kind of at my limit. The other thing is that when you get this, they pick a very small virtual memory size, only 200 megabytes, and you really need about 1.5 gigabytes. You can set that in your computer up faster, but that's going to take up a lot of your hard drive too, so it's very limited. So the hard drive needs to be bigger. This only came with 512 of memory. You really need a gigabyte of memory. That's easy to change and inexpensive, but just so you know. I would also say the lack of ports on it make it perhaps a lesser choice. But if you need very, very basic computing and you want to go for some of the nice extras like the big keyboard, the nice display, the somewhat better than average speakers, and this really nice, thin, very pleasant, smooth, kind of easy to carry form factor, then the HP Mini is a good choice. So I think it's adequate. There are better ones out there, or you might want to get the HP Mini Business version, which remedies all these problems. The HP Business version does have a video port. It does have a separate headphone and microphone port. It does have the bigger hard drive. In fact, you can get the business version even with the 7200 RPM hard drive, which makes it kind of like almost like a desktop. So you can get those types of things if you want to spend a little extra money. If you're looking for the very basic, cheap one, go with this one. You probably will find that this is inadequate for a sole computer. In fact, it doesn't even have, of course, like all netbooks, it doesn't have an optical drive. You're going to have to get an optical drive separate for this, or run things to a flash drive off your main computer and plug it in here. So the last thing I want to mention is that when I did plug an optical drive in here, although it was recognized by the computer, it was not recognized in the boot up sequence. So if you're thinking that you can boot up using your optical drive, at least the one that I had, that didn't work. But something else for HP to think about. So here is a nice little computer, very inexpensive, perfect for a business trip or for some other activity that's kind of light duty. Battery life is reasonably good. I'd say probably about 3 hours or so, which is more than adequate for most of us. Give it a look. Consider other options if you have a few $100, maybe $100 more to spend. Thanks.